AI is here to stay, and cyber criminals love it too. The conversation today is going to tell you how to keep your real estate transactions safe from cybercrime when cyber criminals are using the tools. And I am excited to have the opportunity to talk to who I call my hero. This is the title company owner in Florida who was able to save a buyer, an investor, $52,000. So let's get started. Hi, Lauren. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me with you today.
Okay, Lauren is coming to us from Florida, but don't worry, she is safe, she is okay. Lauren, will you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us about your company, the name of your company, where you are, and how long you've been in business.
Awesome. Yes. So my name is Lauren Albrecht. I am in sunny South Florida, Miami, Pinecrest to be exact, but we do service the entire state of Florida. And we work in residential, commercial real estate all throughout Florida. I opened this company in 2014. I have been in title since 2010 and in real estate since 2001. So I've been around for a little bit and I've seen just about everything that's happened in the market. So happy to be here.
And then this.
And
right.
It never changes. You got to be on your toes always.
Yeah. Right. So how did you start in 2001? What were you doing in the real estate industry then?
So in 2001, I was actually in college and I was working in South Beach, living a fun life, and everybody was getting their real estate license. So I got a real estate license and became a realtor and quickly decided that was not a career path for me. I don't have the patience that a lot of realtors have. So I appreciate their work and I understand it and I'm able to help in a lot of problems, but I like to be in the office dealing with my papers and problem solving. And that's when I transitioned over to title insurance.
That is so funny when you say that, because when people ask how I got started as a real estate safety expert, I have a twin sister and she and I got our real estate licenses about 35, 36 years ago. And I always say, I realized that that is not the path for me. And you said the exact same thing. So we are definitely connected. So what I started doing is getting in the real estate safety business, and I get to speak across the country virtually and in real life to teach real estate agents how to live and how to work safely, and most importantly, how to protect the consumer. So that's why this story caught my attention. Will you summarize the story for us, Lauren?
Yeah, so Florida is definitely considered one of the fraud capitals of the world. So we have to be on our toes always. There has been this information going around about fraudsters trying to impersonate sellers. So it's something that we're always trying to look for. But this case is a little bit different because the fraudsters thought they were smarter than me and they have utilized AI to try to trick our industry and continue that imposter relationship. So it's pretty scary.
Right. And I, of course, this is my business. I've been following the story from the, take it from where the client said, hey, I want to buy a property. Looks like his father was the broker. Someone reached out to his father to say, I have this lot that I want to sell. Take it from there.
Right. So what we see happen a lot is the realtors will receive an email, usually from realtor.com, Zillow, a follow-up on a listing that they have and say, hey, I have a property in the area and I'd love to sell it. And that's what happened here. So the realtor, did his research. They agreed on a listing price, and his son happened to be looking for something in the area. So his son made the offer. It was accepted, and they sent me the contract, which is when I started doing my investigation. The realtor had let me know that this woman was hard of hearing. So they communicated primarily through text and email. When I asked primarily, it ended up being only text and email, which is red flag number one. And from there, we start doing it. Of course, we're in the business of doing closings. So I wanted a closing to happen. I wanted to believe that everything was true and accurate. But my job is to investigate and verify that it is all true and accurate. And I started the investigation right there.
And since AI has come on the scene, specifically ChatGPT, I want to say November of 2022, everyone has lost their minds and people are using it and they don't understand how to use it safely. So I have become a leading voice in the AI cybersecurity safe practices in the
Okay.
real estate world. That's what's taken me across the country from DC to California, Vegas, North Carolina. And September happens to be Realtor Safety Month. So I have a presentation this afternoon. I've had a couple a day, recently, and I've even traveled, gotten in the car and traveled. So what I am doing, Lauren, is I am teaching real estate agents how to use these tools, ChatGPT, how to use these tools in a safe way, but I also have to let them know how cyber criminals are using them.
Right.
And when we talk about ChatGPT helping us write in a grammatically great way, cyber criminals are doing the exact same thing, except now they're writing the phishing emails grammatically correct. So real estate professionals have to have the conversation with the consumer. If you get an email saying, here's how we're changing the wire fraud, the wire directions, that's when I have to say, have a conversation and let them know. I
Right.
also talk about deep fakes, and people's eyes just kind of glaze over. They don't really relate it. And I've had stories where I get to share about a deepfake video in Hong Kong where a innocent guy was on a deepfake video with his clients or his executives, and he wired $25 million. That money is gone. And that has been my example up until now. So now your story gets to be in the actual presentation where I'm saying, here's a real life example in the real estate world. So you asked for a meeting after they said that they're hard of hearing, the seller's hard of hearing. And again, that's one of the ruses that cyber criminals are using. We can't meet in real life. We can't talk on the phone. So let's communicate via text. So you were able to step in and say what?
So we said we require a proof of live video, and we do this on any closings where the sellers are not going to be present for closing. If they're not meeting me, one of our team, or their attorney directly, we require this. And what we ask for is we ask for 2 forms of identification. And then within 24 hours of the identification, we want to have a Zoom or WhatsApp, any video. We prefer Zoom, but if they say I don't use Zoom, or it could be FaceTime, WhatsApp, any of these platforms, we ask them to hold the ID to their face so we can do a facial recognition to confirm if it is in fact them. Generally speaking, when we ask for this proof of live video, the fraudsters disappear. They're not capable of doing that video. They don't want to show their face, so they disappear. This is the first time that we've seen anything like this with a deep fake video where unfortunately they took an image of a woman. That woman who is missing from California since 2018. So my heart goes out to her family for seeing her face circulated on the media. But they utilize that video to create, this videos where it looks like she's on our Zoom. So if you have somebody on the Zoom saying, I can't really hear you, so I'm not going to be responding. In that moment, I was speaking verbally because I said, what if it's a filter and somebody slips up, they move? But we're also chatting with her in the chat function, asking her to raise her hand. We're texting on the phone number. And in the video, we'll ask her to do something. We'll lose the video. And a couple minutes later, the video comes back. It's like, oh, okay, they're trying to modify the video. But something else that's very interesting here, and when you say that I protected their 52,000, in reality, it's a lot more. And this is one of the areas where we can protect realtors and other licensed professionals in the industry, because what happens if I would have closed it? It's a vacant land, and they would have had title insurance for $52,000. But they weren't intending on keeping it vacant land. They were intending on building. Well, when the real seller finds out and the title claim happens, that insurance is only $52,000. All of that investment that they made is gone. So really, I mean, I saved them $52,000 right now, but the end money would have been a lot more.
Wow.
And as real estate professionals, we have a fiduciary obligation for the client. When that client loses $52,000, okay, he's going to get that back from insurance, but $400,000 in construction, time, energy, all of this money, what's he going to do? He's going to turn around and sue everybody involved, me, the realtors, everybody. So this is why we have to be very diligent to make sure that who we're dealing with is who they say they are. And people find it funny that they have these apps that you can take a picture of somebody and make it talk, but that's no different than what they just tried to do here.
Exactly. And I do show and tell in my presentations. So I'm showing them pictures of deep fakes and their eyes are huge. It's like, we didn't know that was possible. And that's why I believe in lessons learned. So all of my presentations have real life stories about crimes against real estate agents. And in this situation, how cyber criminals are using the tools, but you brought it to life. What I want to know is how you, the title company owner, knew to ask her to raise her hand and that you knew what to look for. And I heard you say something about women's intuition. So I wanted to say everyone has intuition. If you see this
True.
bookshelf behind me, you'll see
Yeah.
the book, several copies of The Gift of Fear. And that talks about intuition, instinct, survival signals, sixth sense, flight or flight, spidey sense, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
What in your gut told you that this was suspect?
Well, it started from the very beginning when we received the ID, because the tax bill has been sent to the Bahamas since they bought the property in 1978. So all of a sudden, when I received this ID from West Virginia, that was a red flag for me. When we got, I didn't anticipate the Zoom to happen. When I got the email from this woman, supposedly, to have the Zoom, I was kind of shocked. And then again, the hope came back because we want to have a closing. We're like, oh, maybe it's not fraud. But as soon as we got on the video and I'm watching the video, the movements were very robotic. It looks almost like she looks almost like a ghost or like a robot. It was very not a smooth, natural movement. Then it would pause, and I noticed that it would loop again on the exact same. So, I mean, in live, in real motion, you think you're seeing it. Now, when I look back, my intuition was correct, or what I was seeing was correct. But in those moments, I'm like, I don't think this is accurate. Let's ask her to raise her hand. Let's, try to communicate and see what happens here. And it was evident, I would say within 30 seconds of watching her, I was like, this is not real. And then what I ended up doing was doing a spotlight on the Zoom, because there were two other people in the room with me, the realtor and my partner, Stephen Kelly. I spotlighted her, so her image blew up, and then you could see all of the shading around her. It was a lot more noticeable. So I mentioned in one of the interviews that our job is to verify the identity. So it would have been very easy for myself or one of my team to say, okay, the woman came on, it looks pretty much like her, check, let's move on to the next. So my request from my real estate professionals is take our time, double check and triple check. And if you're not sure, put the brakes and request the video again. Bring in your underwriter or somebody else so they can have, more people looking at it to make sure we're protecting ourselves and our consumer. Ultimately, a mistake like this or a claim like this could cost me, my company, a realtor, their license, because we do have obligations and the consumers are trusting us. And I don't want to see anybody fall victim to these scams.
Right. And if you weren't as sharp as you were, the real estate agent, like you said, could have been the target of liability or some kind of lawsuit. And so for the claim, if the seller, if the buyer would have just sent the money and it would have gone through, and then of course at some point he would have realized I was scammed, whether he got to the building point or just after the money was gone. How does the title company's role? What happens next? Would you typically pay him the 52,000 back so he is made whole again? But of course, the agent would still not have a property there to sell. And would you have to eat that $52,000?
So no, I would not. Yes, the client would be reimbursed the 52,000. So Florida Title and Trust, we are basically an insurance agent, and we sell the insurance for the underwriters. Those underwriters are Fidelity, Old Republic, North American, First American. That's the actual insurance company that would have reimbursed the client. As a title company, we do have errors and omissions, liability, insurance. Now, if I didn't do what my insurance company requires me to do, so if I skipped the step of the proof of life video, if I didn't follow all of the steps, then my insurance could say, no, we're not going to pay it because you didn't do your job as an agent. So my job as an agent is to follow all of the steps to reduce the risk as much as possible. Then that homeowner has the risk insured. And if a claim does come up in that time frame, they are insured up to their purchase price. So it's also good to keep in mind if somebody is doing refinances, or if they're doing upgrades on their home and the value keeps increasing, your title insurance is a one-time purchase and it's a one-time value unless you decide you want to increase the value later on. So we have seen that happen. Like, for instance, when there's a developer doing a construction loan, they insure with the first loan, and then every time the lender gives more money, the lender increases that policy just in case something comes up. Most claims don't show their face for 5-10 years after the damage happens. And this is one instance of a title claim, but another is, a seller. A common question that we have is when we ask somebody, are you married? They're like, do you mean married here or in my country? No, married is married.
Wow.
So if somebody is married in another country, sells a property here, and their wife was entitled or her husband was entitled to that money, those claims come up in a divorce, and that could be years later, or in a probate hearing years later. So title insurance is different than all other insurance. We're protecting against anything that happened from the day you became the owner all the way to the first owner of the property. So those claims could come up at any time.
Title insurance is important. People don't understand it. So thank you for the explanation. So before I ask you to whine with your actionable words of advice for the real estate industry, I want to say that I saw that video. And if someone didn't know better, they would just think, oh, a bad connection, especially if the cyber criminal was clever enough, like you said, to keep going in and out of video. So looking at the jerky motion, you could blame it on a bad connection. So I can see how someone who did not know and understand could have just passed it. But you, for whatever reason, your gut or your intelligence, your experience, you knew something was wrong. So bravo to you. And what I want you to do now is to talk about what the real estate industry needs to know. This is a wake-up call. And again, I get to talk to thousands of agents since AI has come out, and most of them have no clue about the faceless videos that you can use as a real estate agent, but cyber criminals are using these legal tools to create these deep fakes and using the tools to write grammatically correct phishing emails. So I am waking them up, but your story, I think, is going to help make a big, big impact. Talk to the real estate agents about not just the agents, but other professionals, the mortgage lenders, the other title companies. Talk to them about the due diligence that you talked about, what they need to watch out for in the age of generative AI, how you knew better. And I say training is the answer, but you still knew better. Tell them what they need to do going forward, especially to protect the consumer.
Well, some common red flags. So anytime you see a transaction that is a vacant land, or if you see a property that the sellers are not local, or if you see a property that does not have any mortgage on the property, those are all transactions where they very well may be perfectly legitimate, but you should pay closer attention. I know we're in an area of technology, an age where, everybody wants to be virtual post-COVID, online closings are the thing, but really going back and speaking to people, trying to meet one-to-one, that face-to-face interaction, whether it be over a Zoom, doing your listing presentations instead of sending an email, getting on the Zoom and trying to communicate back and forth. The more times you are able to see and talk to the person, the less likely you are to be tricked. Each time that I've seen this particular issue with seller impersonation, this is only been communicated via email, text, message. There's not a voice on the phone, and there haven't been videos up until now. And even now with the video, there was still no voice. So I think the vocal is very, very important. And remember, we all want to have our commissions and get paid, but ultimately this is your license and your livelihood. So I would say just to be on the lookout and not agree or accept everything that you receive as a truth. Also, do not use Gmail or private email address. The best emails that you can have are emails that you own and have a email security system. Emails are hacked all the time, and they sit and watch for you to have a closing, and right before the closing, they'll send out on your behalf or an email that looks just like you, or even impersonating the title company or somebody, but they're usually getting that information from the realtor's emails, because often the realtor's emails are free email domains that are not security protected. and putting your clients at risk. So for like $9 a month, you can get an email security and reduce that risk a lot.
Two excellent points. You talked about getting on a phone call. There are voice deepfakes. There was an executive at a company who got a phone call and a CEO's voice told him to wire $243,000. He did it. It was a voice deepfake. So you can't believe what you see, what you hear, and like you said, what you read. And thank you for bringing up the free email. Those are the most hacked. I tell real estate agents they need to use their company's domain email. So that means your real estate company or your organization's email is going to have a higher level of IT cybersecurity protocols. And that's the route to go. Free email, not for business. So before we wrap up, Lauren, you're in Florida now. Do you have any future plans, anything that we need to know going forward about where to find you, how to find you, and what you're going to be doing as sharp as you are?
Thank you. I'm all over the state of Florida. So any transactions anywhere in Florida, I am happy to help. I am in the process of opening up in a few states. So I will be coming soon. Texas should be the next one up. But my website, fltitletrust.com, you can find me there on our social medias. I have my cell phone posted. I'm available. I'm happy to help. And I've been an expert witness with many of the underwriters in teaching and the underwriter standpoint as well, what to look for and red flags. So I'm here to help. If anybody has any questions or an area of concern, they can reach out, and definitely for those Florida closings, we'd love to work together.
Wonderful. The industry needs more of you, and you've raised the bar. So now when I'm talking to agents and to other real estate industry experts, I can say, look what Lauren did. And with training, and again, I do show and tell, that's how people know what to look for, because this caught a lot of people off guard. So I am going in doing the show and tell, and I'm telling them how to use the tools safely, as well as how cyber criminals are using them. And this is now a story in my presentation and going forward. And more than likely, we'll talk about it on the NAR Safety Podcast. It's called Drive with NAR, the Safety Series. It's the country's only real estate safety podcast. Since I write for Inman, Realtor Magazine, RAS Media, The Close, I have a big platform, and stories like yours just make my life easier. I'm sure that you and I will be connected in the future. Are you going to the NAR next annual conference in Boston?
I am planning on it, yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. So we're taping the podcast live from there. Stop by and say hi. We're doing a meet and greet in the booth. I'm also doing a safety presentation. And I'd love to get a chance to meet you in real life and maybe continue our conversation.
Awesome.
Lauren, thank you so much for taking the time, not only to work to protect the real estate industry and share your knowledge, but just being with us today. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you for having me, and thank you for what you do as well. It's so important in our industry. We appreciate you as well.
Wonderful. Don't forget, September's Realtor Safety Month. We're closing it out. October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and I'm already getting bookings to talk about land scams, AI, cybersecurity, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot of calls too. So between the two of us, we're going to get this solved. Everybody, thank you all so much for joining, and everyone, stay safe.